I'd like to welcome everybody to the King of the Hill podcast. We have an amazing guest on the podcast, Chris Chloupek.
Freak, are you
I'd like to thank all our supporters, all our followers. For those who are tuning in for the first time, just like to say, just thank you for joining in. This is going to be an amazing episode because we have the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Chloupek on here. Bro, I guess I wanted to give you just a chance to introduce yourself, bro, to the podcast. I know you're a public speaker. You've done a lot of different things in the world, but I guess I want to just give you, for those that don't know you, who you are and what do you think you bring to the world?
Well, thanks for having me, bro. Wow, open up with that question.
Yes,
what
sir.
do I bring to the world?
What do you bring to the world? What do you? What do you think you bring to the world? Like, what value do you bring?
Really, no value. I mean, from a point of view of one human being, but I try to make a difference, one person at a time.
Yeah.
I try to treat people the way I want to be treated.
Yeah.
After I breathe. I'm just kidding, but my name's, as you said, Chris Chloupek. I feel like I'm now being arrested. State your name. Or,
name,
I've
number,
never been arrested.
Social security.
Except when I was 18 for drinking underage.
Underage.
But what do I bring to the world? Well, I think it's been a full journey. In one sense, I appreciate what you said, myth, legend, but everybody is a legend in their own time.
I agree.
I'm 62 now. I just filed for Social Security, so I can say I evolved in life. And then spiritually, the last 30 years, I've tried to bring love.
Yeah.
Try to be a person who is approachable, available. If I can help, I will. Yeah.
Because when I think of just people in the world that I know today, I feel like for you, you've lived a whole life, right? I feel like sometimes people they'll live their life, but they'll only see specific aspects, right? They kind of stay in their hometown and they don't really go out. You were a veteran, actor. Preacher, so you've seen all sides of life, so where you're at now, what can you really say, just kind of to the younger generation, just kind of reflecting and looking back on your life?
Well, let's see, I was raised in Arizona, born in Indiana, raised in Arizona. I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I'm the oldest.
Wow.
My parents are still alive. So when I grew up, after I graduated from high school, I really had no clue what I was going to do, and I didn't pay attention in high school, and I was in the party scene and all that craziness. So after 2 years of doing really nothing but craziness in Phoenix, I joined the Army. I was watching one of the commercials came up I was in my apartment, and I watched a commercial come on about 12:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
And it was an Army commercial, and they were singing "Be All That You Can Be," and they were rappelling out of a helicopter with the ad showed, soldiers coming out of a helicopter while it was in the air, and they were rappelling out. And I was just like, I'm going to go join the Army. And because I didn't know what else to do, and I knew I was just wasting my life. I was limo driving, in the bars all night, just partying, same thing over and over. And I go, what am I going to do? I'm not just going to go to college. I wasn't even ready because I didn't even prepare. So I went and signed the contract in the Army. I just made one stipulation: guarantee me anywhere outside the United States.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why I said that, but I just felt like if I'm going to do something, I should go.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think taking that leap, it does take a certain person to do that, because I feel like, sometimes you'll meet people and they'll stay in their city their whole life, or, some people that don't even go out and travel, but for you, at a young age, you're like you had that awareness to say, okay, I know what I'm doing right now is not working, so I'm gonna do something different, and I'm gonna actually go out and experience the whole world.
Right. Well, just to put some paint on that story, I did join the Army, but before that, I was pretty much into a crazy drug habit.
Yeah.
And I had my couple people that were with me at that time got the crazy idea of robbing a drug dealer that robbed us.
What?
Yeah.
How old were you, Chris?
statute of limitations is completely off because it's been 50 years. Or not. It's been 40 some odd years ago. I was like 18 or 19.
So that you don't think they're still looking for you?
No. I was 19, 18, stupid craziness.
Yeah.
Justifying that, we bought some drugs from him and felt like he cheated us. So then we were sitting around complaining, and the other two guys that I was with, and someone said, like, why don't we just go and rob him? And we all laughed like it was stupid. And then we all looked at each other and somehow planned it and then went in. And then after we did that, it was just so crazy doing something like that.
Did you actually get the drugs back and the money?
Yeah. We went in with pantyhose on our face, over our heads, and trench coats.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like some mafia stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I could have been a good criminal. Thank God I went the other way. I mean, I think some of the most criminally minded people could have been very good if they would have went the other way.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Not trying to pat myself on the back, but I went in... I've not even told this story. I've told this to personal people, but I don't even care anymore. I went in, and it was just, we were different world, different time, crazy. Yeah. And, it was even justified when I went in, we had a gun, and it said no bullets. So we just went in, and I had the gun with no bullets because we knew that the guy had a gun, and he was a drug dealer. And he was the guy in the town that everybody knew came in. So we went and did it, and we were going toward the door, and we were like watching people coming in and out. And then we figured, okay, there's no one in there, and he's got a new shipment because we saw people going in and out. So we went up, and we're walking toward the apartment, and we go, and I walk, and kind of gave each other the instructions because we'd been in there before and bought from him. So he knew us. So we had to have the pantyhose over us, and we had trench coats on. Yeah. And then a backpack reverse so we could zip it. And I had this stupid code of ethics. Don't steal anything except what is illegal. Because then it's not wrong in a sense because it's wrong for everyone. That's a crazy mentality, but that's
at the time.
That's way before I studied the Bible. So then we went in, and I thought there'd be 3 people, and the door cracked, and right when I was getting ready, one of the other guys that was with me freaked out, and he goes, I can't do it, and he's walked away, and the door opened up, and I said, get over here, and he came back, and we just pushed our way in, and we thought there'd be him, his girlfriend, and a friend of his girlfriend, 2 girls and him, and there was like 10 people in the apartment. We walked in, they're all around, and we knew he possibly had a gun, so we just held him, and then I said, this is everybody up, and they all started laughing.
Really?
They thought it was a joke. I think they thought it was one of the friends. So one of my buddies that had a wandering eye at that time, he looked kind of crazy. Yeah. He grabbed him and threw this guy that started laughing, threw him over the coffee table in between the 2 girls, and everybody went, shh.
Yeah, everyone was like,
and then we just got them all up and put them into the bathroom.
Wow. So what you guys end up stealing?
Cocaine, mushrooms, marijuana.
Wow. You get any money?
No, we just did it. We were just users.
Yeah.
But it was stupid because that's what happened. And at that time I was realizing I was going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
And that's what got me to join the Army. Yeah. I just looked in the mirror and just waking up in the afternoon, early afternoon, partying all night and just empty inside. And it was like the beginning of a long journey of just searching for. That's what caused me to travel. But I joined the Army because I had to get out because there was word out that they found out we did it, and they came over to our apartment and they had guys outside.
Oh, wow.
And I just got to change my life, and that's what happened. I just joined and just took out.
So like, I guess for me, like how. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, sometimes fall into drugs and things like that. So, but I guess for me, like, how did you guys get into like the deep stuff, especially at a young age? Because I feel like there's always maybe that one person that gives it to you, maybe in a bathroom, or maybe like an adult you weren't supposed to be around, introduced you to it, like, because that one time probably had a full effect on your life, So do you think there's one significant moment that kind of began that journey for you?
I can remember. It was I can remember because drugs have had a hold on me for many years of my life. So I've had to really battle hard, and my faith has a lot to do with that. You probably bring that up later, but that was possibly the thing that I really believed in God. Because I really needed His help to overcome my life. Yeah. But I smoked marijuana on the canal bank in Phoenix, and I remember exactly the first time ever because I remember it was with somebody. I don't want to mention his name, but he was in 7th grade. He was a popular guy, and I changed schools from Catholic school private, and I went to this public school that was in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And he introduced it to me, and I remember we smoked it. And I remember afterwards, I thought I was my bicycle, my motocross bike. I felt like I was a cowboy on a horse. I mean, I felt like I could ride faster. I felt like I could run faster. It affected me. A lot of people would get paranoid or whatnot.
Yeah.
At least it worked for me, I thought, for many years, but it didn't work for me because in hindsight, I didn't study.
Yeah.
And I had to really make up time when I wanted to go to college. I had to take a lot of classes in school again when I got out of the Army, when I finally did want to go to college because I didn't learn basic math. Math scared me.
Wow, that's pretty tough.
But I did get my degree in criminology from Northern Arizona University.
Oh, yeah. So you turned it around.
Criminology.
Yeah, he's a criminology.
I said I should study criminals instead of be one.
Amen, Chris. So you got your high school years. You go into the Army. I guess I would ask, how was it like boot camp and things like that? Because I feel like for a lot of normal people, they'll fear like boot camp because isn't it like 90 days or 3 to 4?
I did 13 weeks.
Okay, so 13 weeks, and you're like
13 times 7. I don't know what that is.
So you went to boot. How was boot camp? Like, is it as hard as people say it is? Because I know the regular person, they're like, oh, they think of boot camp. They think you're waking up at 4 a.m. and like you're like in the water, like probably like I don't know, doing some exercise and things like that. So is it as bad as people think it is? Or
I mean, I would not. It's one of those things I would say I'm so glad I did it, but I wouldn't do it again. And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
Joining the armed military, once I did that and got on. You enter into once you arrive at the reception station, you see guys from all over the United States, every middle America, small town America, Philadelphia. And everybody's coming from their own hoods, and they have all reasons they're joining. It was in 1982.
Wow.
So when I went to basic, I remember we thought first 2 weeks at South Carolina, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, was a reception, so they couldn't do anything really to us except have us get in like front-leaning rest position. We got our uniforms, shaved our heads, got everything, kind of got to know everybody. Then we got on the bus.
Well, why do they shave you? Why do they shave everybody? Is that like?
I think they want unity and uniformity, and they don't want individuality at that time. Okay. They want us because they're teaching us how to be Army.
Yeah.
So, but once we got on that bus after 2 weeks, we got on the bus. We're all talking.
Yeah.
You get to know each other, and this drill sergeant gets up that we haven't seen with a Smokey Bear hat, one of those brown ones.
Yeah.
And he just stared at us. And we were all talking, and he just didn't say anything. He just kept staring at us.
Yeah.
And then everybody started quieting up, and he just looked, and in his silent, piercing stare quieted everybody down. Then he said, "Gentlemen, I want you to think of where we're leaving right now as heaven. And now we're going to hell."
Wow.
And that's exactly what he said. I'll never forget that. And then everybody's quiet, and he goes, "I don't want to hear any more talking the rest of the time." So everybody's just freaking out, going, "What are we?" I'm thinking, did I make a mistake? And we're driving, and everybody, after 20 minutes, people start whispering, and it gets a little louder, and everybody's talking normal again. And then he screams out, "That's right. Just keep talking. Just keep on talking." Wow. And when we arrived in the middle of the woods in Fort Benning, Georgia, they got on. He goes, "You got 30 seconds to get off this bus. 29 are gone. Move. Don't worry about your duffel bags." And then from then on, they abused us.
Really?
Yeah. And then we'd be, and back then we were in World War II barracks. So you have to go to the bathroom. They had all the open toilets. You had to go to the bathroom in front of people. I'm like, what is this, prison? And we were there, and we were like, just got in. We're so tired. They just worked us, screamed at us. And we're in there. It's like 2 a.m. We're trying to just wash our faces and brush our teeth just the best we can.
2 a.m?
Yeah, just the first night. And they come in, and they start screaming, "Who said you could use the bathroom?" They said, "Get down." Oh, they'd come in the middle of the night, tell us to get out in our underwear. We have to crawl into the barracks and the spider webs and everything.
Wow.
They'd tell you, they'd not let you wear jackets because they'd want you to freeze and tell you to stand outside because they're trying to break you.
Yeah.
But I remember the breaking point for me was we were in after chow at like still dark in the morning.
Yeah.
It was in Georgia, and it was February. It was freezing.
Yeah.
And they decide either everybody wears their jacket or not. So they said no jackets. That's just everybody's going. They're making you go, "What's going on?" We're all sitting there, and I'm going, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I can remember this time. This was a defining moment. I called my times that changed my life course defining moments.
Yeah. The New Age people, they call them canon events.
Okay. Well, I'm looking to the left and right of me, and I'm seeing African American, Hispanic, Asian, white, all different men from everywhere, and I'm looking and I'm thinking of my way out. What am I going to tell them? How am I going to get out? And then I'm thinking I should be back in Phoenix. I can go to my dad's country club and jump off the high dive, eat cheeseburgers and sign my name on his bill. And then, I'm just thinking my life over there. And then I just went and looked at him and I go, what am I going to tell my dad and my mom and my friends that gave me a see-off party? And I just saw me getting back home and telling everybody it didn't work out. And I go,
Okay.
And pride sealed me. I said, if they can do it, I'm going to do it. And that moment on, I said, it's a game, and they won't break me. And they tried. They broke like out of 250 people, 50 were kicked out. They didn't get. Yeah. Wow. It was. It makes you a better man because they can't beat you, but they act like they can. Yeah. But they can run you to death and do things, and then they can hit you if they're off record. I mean, they do that.
Really?
So
So you feel like. Do you think that the conditions, would you say the conditions were inhumane at times? Do you feel like they abused their authority at times?
No, I think what they're preparing us for. I was 11 Bravo infantry. They're teaching us and preparing us if we have to fight and kill. We're going to have to fight to defend the nation and each other. So how do you prepare? It's got to be chaos. They actually would throw chaos. They would abuse you. They would tear your room up and say, clean it up again. Yeah, they want you to scream and go, no fair, and freak out. Yeah. They want you to be able to handle abuse and suck it up. Yeah. That's what I learned in life is sometimes it's like if that's what it is, that's what it is, and you're going to go through it and deal. And I just learned kind of that attitude to just suck it up.
Yeah, that's crazy. I feel like the Army's not built for everybody in my mind, but I feel like it takes a certain person to be able to go to the Army or the Marines or anything to get out and still like thrive. Because I feel like sometimes people will get out of like the military and then they're like they have that trauma. They can't really function in society and things like that. That's to me where it's just like, okay, well, I don't want any of those type of problems, But,
no, yeah, but I didn't have to. Thank God I didn't have to go to combat like some did. I mean, real combat.
Oh my gosh.
So that is intense. But yeah, I mean, I just was searching. When I got out of the military, I knew I didn't want to do that for a career. Yeah. So I got out and. Then I wanted to be I wanted to go to college after I got out because it made me sobered about like this life's a long life. What am I going to do? Yeah. So I don't think it's the same way now, actually. But back then, I think college, if you know what you're studying, I just thought I'll get a degree, and that's why I graduated in criminal justice because that's the only thing I was interested in. But I felt like the 4-year degree will be something to fall back on when I go out and be an actor.
So I guess just to close out on the Army section, like, what do you think is your? I mean, obviously it was pretty tough, but tell us about a good time. You had maybe in the barracks with some of your buddies.
In the military.
The military. Were there any good? Were there any good times?
We were in Italy the whole time. I mean, all my time was. I got in my 11 Bravo after we did some testing. I got transferred into a different MOS, which sent me to Italy, and I was anti-terrorism unit on a mountain in Italy. Protecting nuclear missiles. Yeah. Back then they had the Cold War. We had Nike Herky nuclear missiles that would point and cut off and blow up Russia, USSR. That's right. So it's funny. It was back then, but I used to love Italy. I mean, I would get off, and I almost got married over there. I mean, I had my longest relationship before my wife. I'm married 29 years almost. Was with the gal in Italy that I met and. Thought I fell in love, but she didn't speak English. I spoke Italian, and so that was a great time in the military. But with the guys, I didn't really get along with a lot of the guys outside. I got along with them, but I didn't want to hang with them. It seemed like and I'm not being racial here, but the white guys that were there were like when they got off and they went down the mountain and went into town, Italy, like the towns. Yeah. They were embarrassing.
Really?
They had drinking problems. They could drink all night and be staggered and be stupid. And then they could still, there's one of those guys that could smoke a pack of cigarettes, drink all night, and be up at 5 a.m. ready to fight in a war. But they were just embarrassing. I'm not kidding. I'm not saying I was but I'm just like, so I just felt like they were great soldiers, but they were kind of embarrassing. Like, the way Europe would say, look at the American soldiers type.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to be part of that. So I was friends with them, but I kind of got into the Italian people.
Yeah, Italian people more.
When I was off.
Yeah. You miss Italian food, like the wines, the pastas, anything like that, or you think American food?
Yeah, I mean, my whole eating now is so different than it was. So I like it, but I don't really eat pizza or pasta much anymore. I'm eating to win.
Eating to win.
I'm what do you say? Eating to live. I'm not living to eat.
Living to eat. I think the acting, because when anybody meets you, Chris, you're big on the acting. Why do you think that acting is such a big part of your life? Like if you're on stage preaching, I feel like, yes, we're hearing the word of God, but I feel like sometimes we get a performance as well, or a little skit. So why do you think the acting part is such a big part of you, of who you are?
Because when I started to study it, I realized it was very fascinating when you really understand that you're trying to understand the writer of the script, and then you're trying to build a character with your essence and your spirit. So it's really an absolute pursuit, to the honesty of the writer's idea of what the character is. So it's not about ego, it's about becoming that.
Yeah.
But also, just when you were asking me the question, you had your hands like this, and you're like, what is it? What is it?
Yeah.
We're the best expressive tool we have to communicate. So I really think when I became a minister, I don't plan it. I don't write it out. It's not to entertain anybody. It's just when I go, it's not even I plan it, but whatever I'm doing, I naturally bring everything I got to try to make whatever I'm saying as clear as possible to understand.
Yeah, because you're the only person I've probably seen that, it's so it's not saying that you're entertaining, like taking away from the preaching part, but like you express yourself differently than most. Some people that go up there, they kind of yell and they're hard line, but you express yourself so much in your preaching. I feel like it's relatable, and I feel like people relate to it better. Kind of like the same with the acting. Like, no one's gonna watch an actor if he's stale. I feel like it's the same with preaching. If you're expressive in these things, like, people will be engaged, people will want to listen more, and they'll be more inclined to relate with that person.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. The first thing you gotta commit to whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So, and then you gotta if you don't believe it, then no one's gonna believe it. Or just like even if you're talking to someone, you want to be interested.
Yeah.
So I think it's a responsibility of anybody who's a communicator that you need to be subconsciously aware of whoever you're speaking to, and it's your job to make sure they stay interested. And if they lose interest, either you're not a good speaker or you've went too long, or both. Because a good speaker can go too long, and then he can lose them too.
You lose them,
people can only hear so much.
Yeah.
But I think people just think because they're up there, I think they just think, they'll listen to me till I'm done, and they will. But you should never think that way. You should think whatever you're saying, it's important. They think that you have their attention. You're nobody, but what are you communicating?
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. So if I'm preaching or doing a play or anything, whatever I'm doing in it, I'm going to make sure everybody from the front aisle into the back aisle is paying attention.
Yeah.
And even if I have to switch up things, I will.
Yeah.
Just in the moment, because I want it to be excited. Because if I'm bored and I'm not excited, they're going to be bored. I need to be interested too.
Yeah. So in the point of the acting, do you think that you could have really been like a Hollywood star? Like, were you like right there, or is like the it was just so many guys, or do you think that you could have been like, hey, if I really went all in and just like tunnel visioned, I could have been DiCaprio or something?
I couldn't even say that. I mean, even those guys will say that they got the break, or they got a chance.
They got a chance.
Now I can say when I was striving to do it, it was in 89, 90, up to about 93. And I went in and I'd gotten an agent, I'd gotten headshots, I was taking classes, I got a part scholarship to one of the academies there. So I was just very intent on being an actor. I hated the auditions and the business part and the worldly craziness.
Yeah, the politics, yeah.
And I mean, I went to one of the agents, and it was a big agent, and I went there and had an interview, and he was like, "You got to show me something," and I'm like. And I found out that later that he would try to want homosexual favors for people to get
big
parts, and
big
then
parts.
I realized it was a huge part of that business, and I was like, that ain't happening.
So do you think that happens? Do you think that happens today? Do you think that happened a lot back then?
I think sexual pressure is a huge tool for anyone who can bully. I mean, you see the Me Too movement. Mm-hmm. That's in many places, but power. Most men had it in Hollywood; they did it, but then women do it too with power. I mean, it's just a tool. You can, but I'm just saying, not above that. I mean, I was no saint back then. I was, but I do think that part turned me off, and but it didn't mean that's not why I stopped doing it. I stopped doing it because I started going to church and reading the Bible and studying, which made me go, I don't even want to change my attitude toward the material. But if you keep going, when I was doing it, if you look at some of the movies, like the guys like Sean Penn, and I'm not comparing myself at all to any but I'm saying they're about my age, and then I look back and I see them in these movies like in the 80s. Yeah. And Charlie Sheen, I'd see those guys, and like once in a while, and like there was like some private places that you could get in. I knew the doorman at one of them that was in my acting class, so that's how I got in. But I mean, it's just staying at it. If you look at any great actor, you'll listen. Hardly anybody makes it overnight. They're working and working and working and working. Like Jack Nicholson, he's coming. He didn't even hit until like 40s. Yeah, and he was like one of the biggest stars in the world. Mm-hmm. But they, and then Leonardo DiCaprio was like a kid actor. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they start really young and they kind of grow into the industry.
Yeah, but you just never know.
You never know, yeah.
But I continued to do it because it wasn't even about the money. It's about the pursuit of honesty. And then when I started, looking at other things, it's a great psychological understanding of humanity. Yeah. You really understand people the more you really study them.
So did you ever meet like anybody, I guess, semi-famous, during that time? Or just in Hollywood and the acting? Did you ever act with anybody famous or meet anybody famous?
Well, I mean, as far as meet people, I mean, I've met, but that doesn't mean I really know them.
Yeah.
But, I was in those kind of parties at different times, and in that scene, sometimes I don't know how I got in that scene. I did work at the Beverly Hills Hotel as a house detective.
Oh, wow.
And, I know. I had
detective?
Well, it was a private undercover security in the Beverly Hills Hotel. They call it house detective. Wow. The reason I got that job is because I had a degree in criminal justice, and I had a top secret anti-terrorism, honorable discharge in the military.
Oh, the military.
So that's how I got in. Most of the people were off-duty LAPD or retired.
Really?
But it was a fascinating thing because I'd be walking around this hotel and seeing all these movie stars and everything coming in and out, and it was just this is a different time. This was in the 90s, early 90s, so everybody's come and gone. I could mention stars and you go, who are they?
I mean, some of the viewers might know these stars.
Oh, well, I've met Mel Gibson, but that wasn't I guess he's still known, but back then he just did Lethal Weapon. Charlie Sheen, I was bantering with him, so I didn't really know him. He didn't know me, but I was being obnoxious, and his buddy wanted to do something about it, but then we just talked. But I knew who he was. He'd just done the movie Platoon. But then I'd seen Barbara Streisand. I mean, I could go on and on, and I'm not name dropping. They didn't know really me, but I was there. But then I was in.
If you're within 6 feet of
Martin Lawrence, I worked in a film called Talking Dirty After Dark. It was about black comedians doing stand up. In Watts, and I was the only white guy in the film. Serious. I became a production assistant because when you're trying to make it in the business, you try to get on movie sets, being a dog, anything, PA, whatever. Yeah. Everybody's an actor, they'll say. So you get on there, and I was making like nothing, bro. I was making like $60, working 14 hours a day. Wow. A day. I was making $60 a day. You do anything.
Just to kind of get
because
your
I could
name
be
out.
on the set, and it was
You
a
meet people, yeah.
and you're watching the scene. But Martin Lawrence was a non-union film. He hasn't been known. He wasn't not known. He was just barely up and coming up as a comedian. I didn't know him from Adam, and anybody else didn't. He didn't have any. He didn't even have a series yet or the movies.
Oh wow! So he was just like.
So he was funny as all get out, and he was and you know I just laughed, and he'd be in the makeup trailer because it was low budget.
Yeah.
And he was the guy, and so that was a great experience. And then the other film, it was Bound by Honor, Blood In, Blood Out. The star of it was Damien Chapa, but I was his friend, and they wanted someone that could be. They could hire me as his stand-in, but they wanted someone that could be there just with the pressure he had as a new actor on the film. They wanted a buddy because he was clean and sober recently, so I was there to help him do that. But Vic Reams, Billy Bob Thornton was on that film. Benjamin Pratt, Jesse Borrego, the guys, they all went on. You see these guys, I didn't even...
it's like you don't really know him.
Billy Bob Thornton, you know who he is? If you saw him in movies, you would see him. He's in millions of films.
I'd recognize him. Yeah.
I mean, he's in a lot of films, but back then he was nobody. He looked like just a hillbilly. He was hired to be one of the Aryan Brotherhood guys on the San Quentin. We were on the yard in the prison for 6 weeks doing shooting, special permission.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me like some hillbilly being an actor, and then I realized later on, I go, dude, I knew that guy.
Yeah. That's crazy. Because like you gotta think about it, like you guys are all young, younger, and then like as you get older, you kind of go on your own path, and you watch a movie, you're like, yo, I know that guy. Like,
oh yeah, it's amazing, and I love film still to this day. I watch movies. My wife wants to watch movies with romance and good ending with a bow.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, I like those too, but I just sometimes if I go to a movie, it doesn't matter. I'll just follow the story, and I could be with my wife, and she goes, "That was so depressing." I go, "I don't go there for my feelings. I go there because it just takes me on a ride. I don't care where it ends if it's interesting."
So, what would you say your favorite movie is right now? Or give me favorite. If you have a movie you say you could watch 100 times.
Oh, one you can always put on every year or whatever. And
that you said you didn't just enjoy.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
Deer Hunter. That's back in the 70s. They made some good films in the 70s, but that's one, like, when I say like Deer Hunter, Apocalypse Now, those are movies I always suggest don't watch it if you have any distractions. And if your wife doesn't want to sit quiet, then make sure you do it when she's gone, and just you put the lights down, and you just got to get into it, because those are the kind of movies that will take you. It's like a journey, some movies like that. So I like Remember the Titans. Mm-hmm. I love Denzel Washington's probably my favorite actor. He's just unpredictable who he is. He still has the same vibe, but he's just in every... I mean, how can you play from Remember the Titans, such a good dude, to Training Day? When I say Training Day, I even felt weird because I still like him. He has a likable character.
Yeah, I love Training Day.
But he's like almost like how Satan would be in the flesh in that character.
Yeah.
But it's just like he's so light, he's charismatic.
Yeah.
Remember that scene where he goes, "You've been thinking about this all week," and he goes, "I've been thinking about this all month." Like he was like the guy, because he couldn't believe he was just betraying him. Yeah. I think it was, "You've been thinking about this all day," and he goes, "I've been thinking about this all week." Like when he set up his partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Training Day was an amazing movie. I remember when they went to the hood and he just knows everybody. Like I feel like he's a respectable. I don't know. He was just so respected in the movie. I feel like it's hard for you not to like him as a character. Well,
it was brilliant. He got Academy Award for that. Yeah, that's pretty. He's got a couple Academy Awards, I think. But I like so many different movies. It's hard for me to give a.
Any movies you'd say like recently that you've watched that you're like, oh wow, that was actually really good. Like maybe in the last 5 years or so. Because I know, obviously you probably have a bias to like the older films that you grew up on. But any movies like today in this day and age, or any actors today that you said, oh, that guy's a great actor, or that was a good movie.
I just can't think right now. I mean, I see movies. I don't go to the theater as much unless it's really something.
Yeah.
But, gosh, what have you seen recently? Because I'm sure I've seen what you've seen, and I'll go, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
you can't see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big movie guy.
I've probably seen 5 movies in 2 months. And I can't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I watch a lot of Netflix and stuff like that, because those are. I haven't been to the theater. I think the last movie I seen in the theater was probably the animated Spider-Man movie or something.
Oh, okay. I just brought it up. the Iron Claw I just saw. It's amazing.
I haven't even seen that.
It's
I
amazing.
haven't even heard of it.
I know. It's
The
like
Iron
I went
Claw.
on my own. It was like a day where my wife was busy and I had time, and I go, I'm just going. Have you ever gone to a matinee by yourself?
I haven't.
It's kind of weird at first. You go, why am I going to a movie myself?
Yeah.
But then you get in there in the matinee. There's no one there. It's like
Yeah.
it's like you're in the screening room of Steven
by yourself,
Spielberg's
yeah.
place.
The Iron Claw. I'm looking at it right now.
It's a true
Ooh, 88% Rotten
Yeah,
Tomatoes.
true
Yeah.
documentary.
Yeah, it has some
It's
good
a true
scores.
story. I don't know anything about wrestling, but it was very amazing. It wasn't about the wrestling really in and of itself, but it's a true story. You see the sad dysfunction of misplaced love. I don't want to go on any more than that, but I'm going to even go again with my wife. That's how much I liked it.
Wow.
Isn't that funny? You're
Yeah.
like, what's supposed to be? My brain doesn't work. That way.
So, obviously, with movies, the Emmys. Do you ever think there was a bias in the Emmys and the Academy Awards and things like that? Because were you ever big into that or watch them?
I used to, but not much anymore because it's just too. I don't think like most of those people, but I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, I just think I don't even know how you could go to one of those things. How could you all be in the audience and not have huge, like, competitive,
Yeah.
They're all acting so smooth and casual, but it's good night. And then I wouldn't even go if I was given a ticket because you'd just be a nobody. I mean, I am a nobody, but I mean, I don't want to go and be a real nobody. I mean, like a sign. Like, what am I going to do? Act like I'm like.
Just have a suit on and act like you're some actor or something.
And at the commercial, they're all talking with one another. You're going to go, hi, how are you? Who are you?
I would just be there in a suit and just act like I've been a star in like 50 movies.
Yeah, they go, who is he? Yeah.
You don't know. I'm just that famous.
Well, then I can be your bodyguard. And no one will get near you, and they wouldn't know. They just keep wondering, and then you make it more mysterious.
Did you see? You saw when Chris Rock slapped at the Emmys? You saw that?
Yes, I did. I thought it was just. I think everybody thought it was like a skit.
Yeah.
But that was loss of self control.
Yeah.
That was incredibly bold. Mm-hmm. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to run up on the stage when there's like
hundreds,
100 million people watching
on TV too, and
slap the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Will Smith's never really bounced back after that. I mean,
he's a great actor.
Yeah, amazing.
He's done some films like now that you bring him up like that, The Pursuit of Happiness. That was
amazing.
Don't watch that movie if you're in between jobs and you're struggling finding a job. Don't watch it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, a true story.
Yeah, Pursuit of Happiness was a great movie. Especially with the son aspect of it and everything.
Yeah.
It was just like...
That was his real son, by the way.
Yeah, that was Jaden Smith.
Yeah,
That's right. That's crazy.
And
then his The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, his TV series.
Oh, yeah. That was way before. That was before he made any movie.
Yeah.
You weren't even born.
I watched that.
What was that? Was that in like when was it really made, though? Because I remember watching it in the 70s coming up, or 80s. 80s, 90s? Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's 80s, 90s, mid-80s,
when were
90s,
you born?
98.
Yeah, so you were watching reruns.
Yeah, I'm watching reruns. Yeah, I was watching reruns. But I thought it was a great show.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I thought it was a great show.
It's funny.
Yeah.
You could see his talent. You could see, even before he went there, you could make sense because you could see him just go. And then he got a chance to do something serious, too. He's an amazing serious actor.
Yeah. So, L.A., you think the lifestyle's worth it? You know, they got the high. I mean, because I visited LA once, and they got the nice cars. You got the crazy lifestyle. Do you think the fast life is worth it, or would you rather be in more like an Orlando, or would you rather live in like an LA?
No, I mean, when you go over there, when you're young and you're really going after a dream, it's exciting. Yeah. Now I look at it like when it's a rat race, and obviously you can take yourself out of things, but so many people, besides everybody, so many people get caught up into that intoxicating aroma of who are you, who am I, and almost people need to act like they're somebody.
Yeah.
So I think it's just something it can run through because it's fame and it's built on things like that. It's fun to visit. I'm done.
Yeah, you said you're done.
I love it here.
Because you were there in 2008 with the big housing crash.
I was back in Phoenix in 2008.
Yeah, how was that?
I had a company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was like the crash? Because I know before you said you had homes and when everything just dropped.
I had 3 homes. in Phoenix. I had a sober living home there. I did the property I was living in. We made it from 2,000 to 4,000 square feet home. Had an architect put a lot of money into it because the area I knew really well. It's never even in all the recessions before anything. It's like one of those bulletproof ones they thought until the recession came. So, yeah, that was tough because I was making really good money. I think I was on paper I was over $1 million.
Yeah, like the equity.
Yeah, if I would have sold. And then that recession came in, and everybody was just, we watched every month it went down like 5,000. That's why it was stuck. That's why no one could even, they weren't even ready to go short sale or anything because no one was going to buy. Everybody just went down for 2 years or a year. It was a night, it was great spiritual training because I went from hero to zero, and then I was exposed by God, and I was realizing that I was putting more of my hope into my material stuff.
Yeah. So you're kind of like Job in a sense.
Well, I don't know, but I had it and then I lost it, and I never became an actor to try to make money. That's stupid.
Yeah,
it's almost like you're just gonna, But I don't think any actor that really became super famous said they tried to do it. The odds against that just to try to make money is not with it. But the company I had when I got into the Chloupek Investment Management. That's where I got a deal on a handshake and got a 100-home deal, which was a Cinderella story.
Deal on a handshake, like what? So how do you?
I know.
You see what I'm saying? Like
I know.
How does a regular person
It's God. I mean, and I really mean that because when you look in hindsight, you got to give someone credit. I give God credit.
Yeah.
And I was going even to job fairs because I'd been in the ministry for 8 years, and then I got out, and I was looking for jobs. And I remember I remember this Hershey, the company Hershey, was having a job fair in Phoenix, and I remember getting dressed and going over there and oh my gosh, filling out applications and all that craziness, right? Mm-hmm. And then I got a buddy that I was remodeling a home. In my own home, but I was paid for someone to do it.
Yeah.
And he was impressed how it came out, and he told his friend, and his friend, he said, I got 50 homes in Casa Grande, which was this desert town between Tucson and Phoenix. It looks like a nuclear bomb went off when you drive there in the summer till you get there. It's just desert.
Yeah.
I had nothing to lose, so I went out there, and that's what's funny. I met him on the street in Phoenix, and he was working on. He owned one side of the street. He was working on. Mm-hmm. He had all these homes, historic homes, and he introduced him, and I just started talking, and he said, "Can you go down and look at these 3 houses and see if you can do these?" And I was like, "Wow!" And I'd never done it before, so I called the guys that worked at my house, and they said, I said, this changed. And then, so I could get him to come down 50 miles one way, 100 miles round trip to do the job, I said, I have 3 houses.
Yeah.
Once I got done with the 3, I didn't know it was 50 yet. And he said, after I did the 3 and they got them sold, he said, I got 47 more. And all those blocks that you were on, they're all been given their walking papers. Everybody moved out. Wow. It was like a ghost town, 2, 3, 5 bedrooms. So I just had to learn. It was like a learning curve.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. That was a handshake. I know it's shocking because you go out and fill in an application, they want everything, and you don't get nothing. And I was like, this was like a candid camera moment. I was like, how do I get paid? I mean, I was talking to my CPA because I didn't even know I needed one. He goes, you write yourself a check. Because I said, I looked for the cameras, a camera. I was like, what is this, a joke? And then I had to learn about that members draw and stuff. But it was just like I'd still pinch myself. I'm writing checks to people, 33 people that had crews with my name on the checks. That's and I don't say that in pride. I say that in fear, humble.
Yeah.
I'm shocked to this day.
Yeah, that's why we want you on, because you had a full life.
It's crazy.
You had the ups, the downs, and
the all arounds.
But why ministry? 33 years old, I think, going into ministry, that's a big commitment.
Yeah.
You've done it for a while. So I guess I'd ask you, why ministry? How is that on your heart?
1993, in a bad place. I was working for one of the members of a rock band, Guns N' Roses. I was personal security for one of the guys, and
So you were a Christian at this time?
No,
Oh,
I wasn't. Okay. I was running a restaurant, a security, and the manager at night, and still.
You ran a restaurant too?
Yeah, Cafe Luna. It's not
so
there
you
anymore.
ran a restaurant, detective. How do you get all these jobs?
Well, you open your mouth. You always look for a crack. When I was running the restaurant, I heard the owner talking to the French lady that ran it, and it was like a really cool place. And he was looking because there was people getting robbed, and I was just listening, and I went. You always think if the door's cracked, kick it open. And I did on both things, on the Chloupek, on the houses too. After we started closing them, we started becoming friends. I started becoming friends with the guy, Sean O'Carroll. And we started becoming friends. And he said, what did you do before this? And I said, I was in the ministry. He goes, what? He goes, why didn't you tell me? You didn't ask. And you probably wouldn't have hired me.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't have hired me. I didn't have any references. So the question what were you asking?
The
ministry, how I went in.
Yeah, and also, how do you get all these jobs? Like,
I don't know.
From the detective to minister to preacher.
Every job I've had has been interesting. It's just been different.
It's shocking to me. Like
that was a handshake from a connection, that job, and I made over $10,000 a month after I got it going for 3.5 years. That was like I'd never seen that kind of money,
especially back then.
No, that was and then I never was really in. So then, but anyway, when I was meaningless. I just kept trying things and going after the actor. From high school to the Army, I think everything good and bad I would try, and I've learned not to do the bad, but I just was just all in because nothing made sense.
Yeah.
I hate to say it that way. Just my parents, when they got divorced, I just thought of it as, and I love both my parents are alive today. We have a great relationship, but I just thought the fabric was torn for my security, and I just went, what matters?
Yeah.
And I was just empty, and I was invited to a Bible talk, and I went to it in Hollywood, California. Friend of mine that invited me, I hadn't seen him for about 6 months, and he had since started going to church studying the Bible. Before that, he was a male stripper, and he was Mr. Teen Universe. Built dude from Louisiana, the Bayou. He's from Louisiana. And his name was Edmund, and he was a cool dude. I still keep in touch with him, but he invited me. And I was just shocked at his story.
Yeah.
What? You're not doing that anymore? What? And then I went, and I was just needing to change, bro. The drugs had me again, and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It just was meaningless to me. I just had done enough, and I was just seriously done. And I was like, what was I? I was 31, and I was like,
31.
My parents are still alive. How long do I mean, I was just almost looking at like, gosh darn it, if I have to do 50 more, 60 more years, I'm bored now. I hate to say it. I'm just bored. Just got to get a job to make money?
Yeah.
And I had no choice. The cocaine was killing me. And so I went, and then I'm just telling you, it was the right time. God opened my mind, and I just knew it.
Yeah.
Because I believed, I just knew this was God. It was exciting for me. I remember reading Acts for the first time I lived in the Hollywood Hills, and the window I hadn't been up in the morning in a long time because my lifestyle was really late. But as a disciple, as a Christian, I was getting up in the morning, and I just remember the sun would crack in. And I remember the first time I read Acts, it was like a movie.
Yeah.
And it still is. It isn't amazing. The shipwreck and stuff, and even the beatings he took.
Yeah.
You could put a lot of that in the rods, the flood.
You can make a whole film on it.
Oh my! Yeah, get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. I went, and then people started showing me the scriptures, which the Bible looked to me like a big. I haven't read a book, I don't think, since I'm not a reader.
Yeah.
And but once someone started pointing it out, that's why I know it was God, because I would not stay interested in something like that if it wasn't God. So I just had to change everything though, and that's what really hit me. So
you're in Hollywood. You're a Christian. How do you go from Christian to pastor?
Okay.
Because there's regular Christians listen to this now, where they're just like, okay, I'm a regular person, in the stands, just taking notes in my book. So how do you go from regular Christian to preacher to evangelist?
Well, I didn't really do that for that, but then once I came in, I was all in, because when you become a Christian and you commit to God and the church that's taught you the scriptures, then if it's supposed to be the most important, then you should live it out like that. So I was just all in. And that's who I was, though. People that knew me before, I was a guy that was extreme. Mm-hmm. But this was really moving me in a way that I just knew was different. It was God. So then once I started to obey it, 6 months down the road, I was asked by one of the evangelists at that time of the church. We went on a walk, and he was just bringing it up. And I was like, what? I go, what do you do? What does it mean? Because I didn't know anything either. So he said, you're green, but you have a heart for God. You're very passionate. And I wasn't trying to do it for the ministry. I wanted to learn. I didn't even read the whole Bible.
Yeah, you just like, yeah.
And that's it. So there's no pressure. It's just love God and be willing to learn to love people and care. And then I look at it to this day. Anytime I can be there for someone, I always go, God, it's not because I'm anything. You've allowed me to have my problems at bay enough to be able to help someone else. That's the way I always give God credit. It's a blessing if you can help someone and you don't have problems that are holding you down. A lot of people are sinking in their own problems.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm able to God's helping me hold my life at bay, and I can help someone else. That's a miracle. I'm like, wow, there could be so many things going wrong.
Yeah. That's crazy. So what they see in you was just your love and your passion for God.
Yeah, and I got people's attention, and it wasn't acting. Yeah. This was, believe it or not, actor. It's not like you act. This was my life, but because I was scared to death when they asked me to do a welcome, come up and do something in the service at first, because that was not acting. That's me. Mm-hmm. And but I didn't really have my attention on me. He was so blown away, and I was trying to stay off cocaine every day on my knees, praying to God to give me one more day, and smoking cigarettes. I quit everything, drinking, women, everything. And I wasn't told, like, people were going, how did you pray today, bro? I don't know how you can't pray. If you want to become a Christian, I was on my knees, or it was going to be do or die. And there was times where I was ready to have the cigarette or blow it, and I'd just go out in the back of the restaurant and fall on the ground. Wow. And I can still remember this, because I wanted to go, if you're really here, God, and you're really true, please, I know you can do it. Help me get through this, because I knew if I didn't get through it and I went, then I would have thrown God out, like he couldn't be there, which he still could be. Yeah. But think about that. If you're going to God, where's God? Now it's not God, it's me. But I just went like that. So I needed to pray just to be able. I still need to pray just to be able to try to be loving to people, because I'm not a bear, but I just can't be, I'm not going to wave to the people at Home Depot every day if I'm not praying for God to have strength. I'm not going to, you just don't think, right? You have your resting face.
Yeah.
And you're like walking in going, hey, how you doing? Looking for a conversation? Right? But if I'm not praying, that I'm just like, get out of my way.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah.
Get out of my way.
He's like, I got.
Get out of my way.
I'm just here to grab a filter, and I'm out. That's it, Oh, man. So I guess I would ask you then, just how was it maybe first 3 months, evangelist for the first time? Are you nervous? Did you feel qualified?
Yeah, I was blown away to be in the ministry and telling people, your parents and people, no one knows what to do with that. I'm training in the ministry.
To be a pastor.
What church? Really?
You? It's the same Chris.
It's the guy that's been in all the trouble, leading everybody all the way and fighting. I got being the most rowdy and being the biggest partier in my senior year of high school. That's awards. Crazy. Those are the awards I got.
Wow.
I wasn't even old enough to drink, and I was,
that to pastor.
Yeah, so that was like, very interesting, but it was just saving my life. And then as I went on with the training, it was so real, and the guy that trained me was a guy that was just so relatable, and he'd been a musician for many years, and he made being a Christian seem like it was not religious or weird. It was just being a guy trying to be a guy that would be a friend of Jesus. So that who would you become? Like, you hang around, and just trying to grow and being real and not trying to prove anything, being honest and humble. Because if I can't be humble, I feel awkward, because I just can't be a perfect Christian. I just can't. I make mistakes.
Yeah, I feel like one of your superpowers when it comes to the ministry is just your openness. Yeah. I feel like not everybody is just so open. Like, you'll go up there and say, I did drugs. Everyone's like, whoa, like, this is my first time walking into church. Like,
I don't know what else to do, because, think about it. Who are we? If someone tries to preach the word, the materials, the brilliant writer is God.
Yeah.
All you have is your weakness. What do we have? Anybody can learn to read the Bible. No. But to what do we have except our weakness? We don't have anything to add on top of it, right?
Yeah, no,
that's the way I look at it. And it also keeps me honest.
Yeah. You know, you always want to be in the light, you know? So just like, hey, like, I'm just clearing my conscience out, you know, before I preach the word of God.
Yeah, you want to, just not be a hypocrite. Even though you're going to sin, sin's insane, but you're striving to never give up.
Yeah. So some of your, like, your most well-known, I would say, episodes, I would say, as a pastor, you know, you had one where you dropped the podium, and then two when you drove your motorcycle into the service.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on the podium one? Or
podium was when I came here to Orlando a little over 7 years ago, and I was given the opportunity to preach eventually. And the church hadn't seen me preach, and I got up there and I was showing a film clip. Yeah, I brought did the film clip thing, and I was leaning. This is before I was injured, so I was leaning against the podium, just bending down, and then the light came off, and I kind of stood up and was so close to the podium, I hit it, and then a Nicholson that has the big high. Yeah, it went boom, and then it went over the edge, bah, and it broke up into a million pieces, and then a guy named Ted Green, he came up to me and he said, "Bro, you just won the whole congregation over by breaking the podium." That did it. They all endeared to you, because I said, "Wow, God, it's going to be a long sermon. You're already humbling me." Yeah. And I started because I really just laugh at myself. If you can't, you just got to laugh at yourself. And I said, "Let's go." And we had to figure out how do I. There's no podium anymore.
Yeah, that's all the thing. And then what happened with someone said you drove a Harley through the service, or
Harley gets all the records. It was a Kawasaki, but I had the motorcycle, and I did it to have my cousin was visiting, and we call him one-legged Larry. He's got one leg, and it's sad. At 7, he lost his leg to leukemia, but now he's my age. He's very successful. He's retired. He retired a couple of years ago, but he worked in Maryland, and he was in the government, and he's coaches, and he hikes the mountain. And when he comes to Camelback Mountain, he hikes in Phoenix. He hikes with Sonia, because Sonia's in great shape. But we went out to dinner the night before, and I said, "Would you want to come to church? I'm speaking." And he didn't really make a comment, him and his wife. And then, so I just threw it out there, and then he called me in the morning, because I was the guest speaker in Phoenix. Yeah. I wasn't, I was leading the church in Phoenix, and he called me and said, "Hey, this is Larry." And I said, "Hey, dude, what's up? I'm just trying to get it together in the morning. Did you say you really ride your motorcycle if you come in?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And then I started thinking, how am I going to do that? And I'm going to do it. I just told the ushers, didn't tell anybody else in the congregation. I said, just open the doors. And I realized once I go in, I have to rev it right before I get in, right when at the door, so everybody hears it. Yeah. But then I got to turn it off and coast in, because otherwise I'm going to put fumes in the church. And then they had a hard floor. Thank God they remodeled it since I wouldn't have done it. But I went in, and I'm sure we would have lost the building. But I got up there and I said, "Guys, my cousin right here said he'd come if I ride the motorcycle in, and I'll try to do anything, get someone to hear the word of God, because I'm grateful that people did anything for me." And everybody started screaming, and I realized that's really why I did it. Yeah, I just want to get he was just shocked.
I'm just trying to imagine that. Just you're in the pews, and the guy's like, revving a Harley. Yeah,
I don't have it now, but I have a picture. I'll show you.
That's hilarious.
If someone took a picture of it, I'm glad, because back then, But I've had a lot of, bro, when you're studying the Bible with, I don't know how many people, because when you're leading in ministries, it's a privilege, but you get into people's messes. I mean, I've seen sad, crazy, hilarious. I mean, you see this, when you get in people's lives, you see, it's interesting.
You see everything, man.
It's scary, but interesting.
Yeah. You look back, you have a lot of stories like, man, like I know this guy, or I do this guy, X, Y, Z.
I had one brother, and I led the arts, media, sports in Hollywood. So there was actors and people that would, we'd be reaching out to and doing things. And gosh, I just lost my train of thought. What was I just saying? The guy in the AMS, when I was leading the AMS, bring me back.
Oh, we touched on the motorcycle.
Yeah, but then the other thing in the AMS. I had a guy in the ministry. This is crazy things. He calls me. He says, "Bro," he was trying to follow up with a member of our church, a guy that had been coming to church, but he stopped coming for a while. And one of the other guys came to church. I'll just go check on him. And then I saw him later, and I said, "Hey, how's he doing?" He goes, I don't think he's coming anymore." And I go, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And he goes, I think he had 2 hookers in his bedroom.
Wait, what?
And I said, what, bro? How do you know they're hookers? And he goes, because I tried to go over and talk to him, and one of them had fishneck stockings. And I said,
yeah.
all right, I guess that's true.
That's
I guess
it
he's
for
not
him.
coming to church right now. Amen. I mean, just it's sad but true. You just run into, and then I've had people kill themselves before they got. I had a guy, not I had a guy, but I was studying with a guy with other people in our church in Newport Beach, California. Seemed like a normal guy and everything, and in between the studies, he'd not talked to anybody, and he shot himself in the face with a shotgun.
Wow, that's crazy.
I don't even know why. I mean, it was just. I mean, these things happened so long ago. This is the '90s, but it was like, stuff just devolves.
You look back, you look back, and
shocks
you're just like, you just still think about it. It's just
I think you get shell shocked, where it's like, I feel for anybody that needs help or hurts, but sometimes when it's what happens, and you just go, whoa, it's just terrible things happen sometimes.
Have you ever had like a bad like heckler? Maybe you're preaching a word and someone says, he starts yelling like, "Oh, he's a liar," or ever had any bad hecklers in church?
No, not a hecklers, because I think I could take a heckler out verbally. I think I could just outwit them in a love. But I think I've had people try to only once they tried to take over the church, over the service, and that didn't go well with them. They said, we said, guys, what are you doing? The rest of the congregation said, what are you doing? And that was in Los Angeles.
How you gonna take over a church?
They just were standing up and trying to. Out of order when I was speaking, they were just purposely trying to stop the service, and then that didn't work out for those. Everybody saw these people just not doing well. It was just crazy.
Yeah,
people get passionate about their convictions and non-convictions.
Yeah, because you see people from all phases of life. I mean, people are just coming to look for God. Especially in LA, a humongous church like that. You probably get crazy people coming up in the service.
Well, it's just like anywhere, but we're all needing help. But I mean, I had a guy one time. I still know him. I haven't talked to him in a while. He actually came out here he had me come out here. He wanted to do it was in the making of a documentary, and he made he's got it on Amazon Prime, a documentary about him. He was the oldest motorbike racer in the circuit, and Daytona, which means the oldest guy to qualify. Means you have to qualify every year. And he goes, I went and watched him Daytona, and all of them are racing wheels next to each other, motorcycles 202 miles an hour. Oh, wow. One mess. I was like, I don't know how to do that. And he was famous because he was the oldest guy, and he'd hand out handbands, and he financed himself. He was a self-made millionaire. Wow. I thought he was nuts, mentally nuts. But then you go, how does a guy invent the ATM machine way back before they had them in all the stores and things? He got the idea to try to put ATMs in Phoenix really before they were anywhere, and he couldn't convince anybody. And he kept going to the harbor, and they go, why would I need one of these? This is a waste of time. And then there was a customer one time that came up. He kept going in, and the customer said, we only take this, and he didn't like a certain amount of payment, and he said, there's an ATM. He goes, where's the closest ATM? And the guy never came back. Yeah, and that's where it started. And then he started wanting to put 2,000 in the United States, and he made like $7 million. Yeah. So then he was a motorbike racer, bought his own motorbikes, had his own crews, everything, and he's just like this guy had a Ferrari and a Porsche, and he even moved in with me and my family. That's another story though. But for a while, but he came out here, and then this guy one time he was going to race, and this is how eccentric some people are. He was interesting. Yeah. He brought in this big duffel bag, and he was leaving in this black Ferrari, and he was staying at us temporarily on the couch because he didn't want to stay in his hotel by himself anymore. He wanted family. So he comes in with a duffel bag. He opens the duffel bag, and it's a brick of $300,000 in brick money, like it's from the bank, wrapped in brick, like in the movies,
like the drug pudding.
Yeah, I'm looking at it going, and he goes, "Can you hold this for me, just in case I don't make it back from the race in Vegas?" He's going to race motorbikes. Yeah. And he's being dramatic. My wife is looking at me, and we're looking at him. It's raining, and his Ferrari's pulling out in the black Ferrari, leaving Burbank. We live in Burbank, California. He drives away. He leaves this duffel bag with $300,000, and I'm talking, you open it up, it's hundreds, and it's just wow. And then I got to be honest, I put it in my up above our bed in we had some storage space in our bedroom. I obviously never thought about it because, you steal or do anything wrong, God sees it. That's the way I believe with God. So as a Christian, I have that deep conviction, like what comes around goes around. But that was a trip, right? You get $300,000. I could have went in there and snagged $10,000, and he never paid. He doesn't pay attention. He doesn't. He doesn't believe in banks. I don't know why. He always carried the money. Every time he took us out to dinner, he'd open up the vanilla thing and pull out hundreds and pay it in cash.
Really? Wow. That's crazy.
But that's how people are sometimes.
That's crazy.
But that was a trip, and I'm just saying those are fun times.
Yeah.
Sonia got to go to Vegas because a gal that was coming to our church and studying was running for Miss America. Or she won Miss Arizona. She was running for Miss USA, and they went, and Sonia and some of the gals went and supported her. Yeah. And that was an interesting trip. Yeah. So it's just you meet everybody. But the reason I went in the ministry is because that was the only thing that moved me, and I was going to do it anyway, obviously, be a Christian. It's my faith, but I was like, I can't think of anything else I care about to do. And then when I said, how do you get paid? And they said they work it out to need. And if, and as an intern, you live frugal. But I didn't care. Yeah. I had my motorcycle, I had my truck. I didn't have any bills. I just was living with guys. I had 3 roommates that were great. Yeah. So for me, I was like, what else, God? I was scared. I felt like I was offered a application. I didn't know anything. That's fine. I just went about learning, and I loved it. There were staff meetings, and I was mixing with the other ministers, and we'd have just training. And then I started to be with people studying the Bible and watch them. I'd take the notes, and I was just learning and watching how people handle people and treat people, and then in service and how to run. And that went on for years, 3 years. But it's a trip. There was nothing else I could think to do. So I don't like the fact when people go, what do you do for a living? You're a minister, because I hate that because of the money nightmare. Yeah. But though I realize that they do need full-time people because you need think time. You can't do a job 40 hours a week and then be thinking about people and counseling and ministry, and because the pressures and things.
It's just too much going on. So, I mean, you make the ministry sound like, it's amazing. And it's the greatest thing ever. I guess my only question would be like, was there ever a time maybe that, I don't know, maybe you had your conscience was like, oh, I don't know about that, or like, have you ever seen anything that you kind of maybe had a question, or has it always just been an amazing ride? Has there ever been any bumps in the road?
I always say in this, I have no problem with God. My problem's with people. Okay. And so when you're playing nice in the church and you see in the Bible how they had problems still. But yeah, there's things that rattled me, and it's not to be against any churches. It's just, where the Bible speaks, we remain silent. Where the Bible doesn't speak, as long as we're trying to accomplish and do the will of God as a church, there's many great things. So I haven't seen too much anything like that, because usually it's the people that start to go awry. And as long as they hold the doctrine and treat everybody righteously, and you don't want to punish people, but you do have when you're in the ministry, there is a certain expectation of areas that if you commit a sin, it's pretty much known you're going to be on probation or taken out. You can't be sleeping with somebody or adultery. That's why they like the ministers to be married, because in our culture and society, you don't have to be, but that's one of the reasons, so they can be protected from all the temptations of life.
Exactly.
But it's not for everybody, I can tell you. And I've been in the ministry for 25 plus years. I would tell you, I don't mean that in a wrong way. I don't know how I navigated it. You have to learn mentally to compartmentalize, because you never can turn it off. And your relationship with God is one thing, but helping the church and serving, it's 24/7. But you have to also be okay to have a balance, because no one can do that.
Yeah, because you were part of both movements. Yeah. Right. So
when you say movements, people are going, "What are you talking about? Bowel movements? What are you talking about?" I mean, what are you talking about?
Okay, so,
church movements.
Yeah, you've been part of both church movements. So anything specific you want to say where rattled you? Maybe you got an evangelist kick somebody out, and you're like, man, I don't know, maybe Johnny just needed more counseling. I don't know.
I have stood my ground for some people, and I think God, if you truly are walking with God, the beautiful thing about the Bible is no one man, even if he becomes totally corrupt, if he's leadership, he can't do damage because the God's protected us, right? Because if you don't agree with somebody, you're okay to go to another person. And if you don't agree, if that person, you keep helping people come in, and everybody's agenda is about being righteous before God, not personal.
Yeah,
you can deal with it, but I just think it's a tough thing. The pace on. God says he is going to save people, but he wants to use those he saved to help communicate and hear the word.
Yeah.
And be fishers of men, right? But that's not, it's easier said than done, right? Be a fisher of men. I wish you could just throw a hook and grab the guy's shirt and go, shut up and get right. But no, it's a tricky thing. And I think being in the ministry, a lot of people come in and they want to do you can't really see results. Like when you go to work, you do something. Here, you can't look at baptisms, or you just have to go, I'm doing God's work. And really, you're just trying to, if you can help people do well spiritually, that's the reward.
Yep.
You can't, like when I built houses, when I was doing those houses, you could see them, you get them done, you get paid, you pay the people, everybody's fired up. You go, wow, we did that, let's move on, Or if you're doing sales, you sell something and you get this.
Yeah.
Ministry is an interesting thing. You got to really, you can't love money
in the ministry,
because if you get appointed an evangelist and you're leading a church, you're going to be paid probably what I would say almost like a middle class professional would be paid, middle class salary, which means you can have kids and they can do sports and you're able to vacation, because if you're living for God, but you are a human being and you need to be able to have a family and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, anything specific though?
What?
Anything
that I
specific?
saw? What are you trying to get dirt?
No, I'm not trying to get dirt. I'm just saying anything specific that you could say. Maybe like you went home at night, you're like, man, I don't know about that. Anything that ruffled your heart a little bit?
Well, yeah, I got out of the ministry the first time in 2002, and I purposely resigned.
Okay.
And I felt like this was I'd been in the ministry exactly, the day I got out was 8 years to the day. And
wow.
I went in 1994, and I got out in 2002, and I resigned with Sonia because I felt like there was certain things, like the machine had lost the heart, which means we were doing things good in of themselves as the Bible. We were helping people have salvation and sending out mission teams, but I felt like it got too much about the goals of planting churches and people. Not that everybody did that, but later on in hindsight, as I got to talk to some of the people and what had happened, it was like there was races to do certain goals, good in and of themselves, but then you realize you're just trying to do whatever you can, and that's a dangerous slope, and it's a hard thing to lead because, how many people, God says, make disciples of all nations. I don't know what that means except convert nations. And then you can't, it's a pace you have to figure out. And I just think each member in the church should have God can do anything and be willing to be used, but never feel guilty because they haven't done what they have been told or shared, like what is justified. Like, I don't share my faith every day.
Yeah.
I led churches, I didn't share my faith every day, but the way some people talk is like, or they challenge church people, is like, I could never challenge anybody. I can propose and go, whatever you want to do. I want to share my faith, and I've been involved and allowed to convert people, but I'm by no means a fruit machine or something like that. But I'm around, and since I've been faithful, there's a lot of people that come up to me and say, you really helped me a lot. Over the years.
Because that's how I see you. I feel like you, like your faith approach, I think helped a lot of people, like especially younger.
Like in Orlando, you saw I mean, what I mean, not a bad thing, but when we took the church before you came, it was what I've learned in my. There's a quote in this movie, old movie, Rudy, but
the football movie.
Yeah, but he was all confused, and he went and asked a clergy guy, and he said he wanted to know all these questions. He goes, "Son, in my 30 years of theological studies, I've come to two conclusions. there is a God, and I'm not him. and that's kind of funny, but it is true.
Yeah.
We have the scriptures, and we have grace, and then love.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that Sonia and I realize is we preach the greatest commandments, and it sounds so simple.
Yeah, it does.
Love God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. Everybody go, amen. That's a Christian, right?
Yep, amen.
But to live that out, and if you focus on that, you will naturally help people become Christians without focusing on share your faith and telling. Now, you need to weave it in and inspire, but you don't need to hit it every week, and you don't need to keep telling people what they know they need to do.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a wrong way toward anybody, but I think it seems too easy. Or how can that happen? Well, it takes time. It's a crock pot, but God can do anything. But when you're loving and creating an environment where people come and feel safe, and then you're trusting God enough to allow them to want to seek and not be on an agenda, but even though you want to help them, they got to want it.
Yeah, they have to.
So if they come to something, then you just got to realize whatever they're hearing from the Bible, if they're interested, it'll be obvious as you talk.
Yeah.
But then you leave it there and say, we're going here next week.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, or would you like to get together? I want to help anyway.
Yeah.
And so I would just say, I can't say criticizing anybody. I've never been the leader, except of wherever I lead, I try to look at it like I'm in a movement of God. But since I'm here, I'm going to lead this church like it's the only church in God's movement. I don't mean that in a thing, but all I can do is focus on creating an environment that is safe, righteous, and obviously we stay with the scriptures, but with with great patience and careful instruction. That's what I kind of see what grace is.
Yeah.
The scripture in 1 Timothy 4, it says, preach the word in season, out of season with great patience and careful instruction. Now, if you think about that, isn't that grace? Wouldn't you want someone to treat you with great patience? That means if they're being greatly patient, that means you still are doing things wrong. I'm patient with you. I'm ticked off, but I'm patient because I love you. And let's do it again. Let's talk. That's hard to do, to stay in the game and just wait on people and be there for people. Yeah. They have to make their own decisions if they want to follow God. The scriptures will, you want to take the next step, this is where you need to go, but I'm not going to push you.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I'm here, and you can do it.
Yeah.
If you really want, God will show himself to you.
So I guess my question would be you took that approach, and I was a part of that, because I could talk about, because I was a part of that approach that you took.
Yeah.
Because I came in the church at 19. I'm just learning. Yeah, I was young. I'm learning my way. My first year of college, I'm learning my way. And this environment, it kept me safe. It made me feel loved, and it made me grow as a man. Right? I am who I am today because of the leadership of the church at that time.
And see, but you caught the truth, because I was involved in one of your studies and talked to you and saw you come around it, but I saw you were already an independent thinker and you were a hard worker. One thing about all you guys, brothers, you're all hard workers. Yeah. You all know I got to get a job, J-O-B. I mean, you learn that. That's a great. I mean, I saw you when I saw that guy's got conviction. He's got a nice car. He likes to work. He works hard.
Yep.
And then you weren't a pushover. You had to find out. And you're a great example, bro, to share with people when you share. Because you need to understand why, just like most people, but you really got to test it. And then you were doing what you thought was really right. So there's integrity to go back and forth. But I've watched your life, dude.
Yeah.
Right? You made mistakes. You're not right. You're not righteous all the time. And God has blessed your life.
Yeah.
And you just got to believe he has great patience. And he still wants to see great things with you. And he wants to also reward you with life and your wife.
Yeah, and it's all God. It's all God. Anytime I talk to people in the world or anything like that, and they see my life, I'm like, hey, it's just God.
That's it.
That's all it is.
Sounds too easy, doesn't it?
It does.
You got to say, well, you can't. You got to look at the scriptures. But once you start walking it, you've already changed a lot. So you're just trying to stay in that lifestyle. But it's protection. It's like insurance, isn't it, for your life? But it is true. It's all God. One of my greatest prayers is, thank you, thank you, thank you to God. What else can you do for God?
Yeah.
You can't earn it. All I can do is just say, I'm just so grateful,
Exactly,
right? I can't believe whoever I am and what I have, I just am so grateful.
Yeah. And it's true. It's true. It's just the love. And I guess for me, it's how did you take that approach? Because, I've been around for a while, and, you see, I feel like every pastor, every preacher has a different style. They I feel like they have a different, I guess you could say maybe focus. So for you, how did you get into that focus of love?
Well, I tried to look at myself first, what does it mean to love God? And then I realized a big part of it is to obey God. If you love God, you obey God, John 14:23. I think the other thing is, it's not that I'm the right person, but you want to go, how do I want to be treated? And it's not always right, because when I went to church for the first time, it was awkward and kind of unusual, but it was my problem because it was all new.
Yeah.
But I went, and I think just loving people, and you think I want to be treated, and then listening to people is never-ending work to really try to care, but then preach the word with passion to you, and then share why you do it. And then there has to be just, all you can do is love people. Because what does that mean? If they want to know God, you help them with the scriptures. But I always like to get to know people a little bit even before we get into the Bible, if they want to.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we already got that. I like to get that human connection. I call it, right? It's not just to get together and like, let's look at scripture, and now I'm just your religious Bible study guy.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Exactly.
Right? I like to have a little connection.
Yeah.
Because then you can help ask tough questions when they're studying, because you feel like you've earned that with the guy. He's trusting you, so you're not pushing him, but you're like, what do you think that means in your life?
Yeah.
And this is what it meant in my life, and this is what you share.
Yeah.
But I think being real, vulnerable, and realize you're not the sharpest tool in the shed. Never forget that, because the minute you start thinking you're better or you're leading, like because you are spiritual or whatever, just you're a dude that was asked to do this deal, do the best you can, and then do everything else, whatever he asks you. Want you to be a broom sleeper, whatever you are. An usher is just as powerful as the evangelist. A member is just as powerful as anybody.
Yeah.
Because who are we? We're all
disciples.
I always love how God lumps us all in. He doesn't give us titles. He said, Jesus is the head of the body. Just you people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your titles are. You're the body. Right? Think about it.
So I have another question. Do you think there's grace in, I don't know. Do you think there's grace maybe in the scriptures at all? So for example, right?
Scriptures?
Yeah. So let's say, for example, right? Like conversions and things like that. Let's say someone got baptized and like maybe they had their pinky toe out, but they weren't fully immersed, right? Do you think there's any leeway or grace there, or do you think it's very hard line? Because when you look in the Old Testament, we follow a very hard line God. So do you think, when Jesus came, do you feel like there's a little bit more grace, like in salvation and at all, or it's like, hey, because this is the thing, if I'm studying the Bible with somebody, it's like, hey, just follow exactly what it says.
Yeah.
Like, there's no need to debate. But, we looking back 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now, maybe there was people that got baptized, but they had their arm out the water and they weren't fully immersed. Like, do you think there's any grace in that, or it's just like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's, what's God judge you by? He judges you by the thoughts and attitude of your heart.
Yeah.
So if someone was intentionally going, I'm going to keep my hand out, then that's just, that's not even about a technical. That's not a technicality, though, right? That's not a technicality. That's just human error. But I mean, if you're defiant, that's contempt.
Yeah, yeah.
But a person that meant to do it well, no, it's because it's the heart.
Yeah.
Right. So we try to help people, but it's God that does a miracle in water. And I was thinking about this just today, because I had a conversation with somebody that was struggling with baptism. And I just thought about it afterwards, my own. Because I've been, I was baptized in a pool in North Hollywood in 1993. And but all the heart work had been done before I went into the water. It was just now I'm receiving the gift of salvation. I don't deserve it, but my heart said, I'm all in and I want to do it, God, and I'm going to follow you. Mm-hmm. And thank you for forgiving all this junk that I had to get in touch with and get real with.
Yeah.
But I think it's a heart issue. God looks at your heart, and we can't get legalistic. So it's the intention.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I agree. So you think so ignorance, right? Let's say for example, I don't know, like some guy's like he says he can speak in tongues or something, right? He's completely 100% wrong about it, but he says he can, right? Do you think God will look down at that as just ignorance? Because you got to think that throughout the Bible, like there's a lot of things. Man did a lot of dumb things in the Bible where God was mad at, right? So do you think He looks at anything in the world, anything wrong that so-called Christians do today? Do you think they look at it as ignorance, or does everything like hard line?
No, I think you can't. Everything. This is what's hard to understand, right? It's like grace means that no one deserves.
Yeah.
That's hard to understand, really. We understand it, but let's just be real.
Yeah.
On what, because we're always used to looking at, even our world works at different offenses, get different things.
Yeah.
I think God is a God of grace and love, and I think that's really what you have to understand. And if you're meant to be in heaven, then you're going to be in heaven, which means because you're not going to give up. People that you can't. It's never over till it's over.
That's true.
But if you look at like I was thinking the water is so pure. Water. Now, what's changed? Water is the only one of the few things that's natural that hasn't changed since Jesus. It's not corrupted or manufactured by man. We can put it in a pool or whatnot, but water, the contents is not of this world. God brought it. He created it. So when we go in that water, think how much water is life and everything. So I think when I go under that water, understanding what I'm doing as Jesus died and was buried for me, it was literally being serious that I'm going to follow you now. And I say, you're Lord, and I understand my sin, and you died for me. So when I go in that water, God, I'm dying to me. And I understood that moment of really what it meant. Like Jesus, really, the power of the cross for the first time happened at that time, 1993, November 3rd. It's as though it happened right there, and I finally got it. It wasn't just an intellectual thing.
Yeah.
But, God's going to, we're all going to stand before God, right?
Yeah.
And I can't stand before God on anything except please make that grace good.
Exactly.
Because I'm trying.
Yeah, because there was churches. Churches were getting letters because people were misusing the scriptures and they were in sin.
Yeah.
So that's why I just asked, like, okay, if you think God just looks down and is like, maybe like, oh, these guys, they're praying 3 times every third hour, and they think there's some type of you think God just rolls his eyes at some stuff.
No, I don't know about that. I think everything's done with sincerity, but I think there's a lot of this is hard to say because everybody, but I just think sometimes we're nervous when we pray. And just try, and it's just a learning thing. God looks at the heart, but I think there's really no way to pray except the heart issues, the way the Bible teaches. What do you want to try to have as the priority and stay, and God help me put you first.
Yeah.
But I think tongues, I just, that's befuddling because I go, why would God need you to speak tongues to me? And what that means is a different language. So it's not helping anyone except flattering you. Because if you're saying God gives me this, everybody's like, whoa, he's speaking.
Whoa.
What does that do for anybody? Zilch, except it builds that ego in that person. So it can't be good because it does nothing. And then the person will say, well, it's my relationship with God. Well, then keep it to yourself, dude. Because it has nothing to do with salvation. And it's actually a stumbling block. It confuses. And so I've never met someone I've studied with that can prove it. And even when I ask them, what, can you do it?
Can you do it? They
show me.
They say,
or better yet, I want to do it. And what do you teach every member that they can eventually do it? And most churches will say yes, if they believe in tongues, everyone can do it, and that's not even correct in the Old Testament. I mean, in the Scriptures, in the New Testament,
it had to be given to you, right?
Yeah, it had to be a special gift, and it died out. But I think it's. I always look at like why God doesn't do any whatever we do, it should hopefully.
It has a meaning behind it.
God wants to use it to help others understand Him.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah,
and like if you're speaking an unintelligible noise, like that doesn't help or edify anybody. Back then people were like, oh, he's speaking in Cretan. I know that.
Right.
Like, this must be a real God. Like this guy, like this must be the one true church, the one true God.
Yeah, that's a good point. And isn't the Bible probably translated in almost any language that's valid? Yeah. So now people can get to it and show people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I agree.
But I know there's just, that's one of the things that I love to hold just to the Bible, like you were saying, because it helps you stay clear in all the confusion that's thrown into the mix of Christianity, quote unquote.
It's just like, here, like if I'm going to teach you, you see these words, just follow that.
Don't you want,
like there's no point.
Right. And then let's clear out all the nonsense that we all learned that we can't find in here. And we may have been sincere, but that's what's so great. We have a book of God's word that we can understand and stay, and it's really no one else. It's not a human being's agenda. It saves human beings, but not naturally will we live like that, right?
Yeah,
it goes against our sinful nature.
Exactly. So I think the last question, you're part of both movements. So Any thoughts on like ICC allegations, or when you see something like an article? What's your thoughts about that? When just as a regular Christian, like
I think it's if it has anything to do with the groups that I'm with, it makes me sad. But then it also makes me understand that because even atheists believe in our justice system. Will say so it's just sad, and I think anybody can say anything.
Yeah.
I do think. If anyone was, God forbid, molested or done things, you can't expect anyone to be responsible for people's behaviors outside the church. I can't say it, except I would just say, and I think any other righteous minister would say, or anyone that's wanting to do what's right would say, absolute molestation or violating anyone is absolutely wrong, and they should be prosecuted.
Yeah.
So I just hope God. I just can't see God having someone, or it's not even. It's a civil trials.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that makes me always go. But I just think it's tough. It must be so tough for someone to be accused of that.
Yeah.
I've known a couple people accused of that, and I think I can't imagine. Could you imagine?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Because if someone says something. Think how that already would have a stigma
on me, yeah.
Right. If someone started bringing it around, saying, "I don't know if so and so touched so," I mean, that's why for me, I trust God. I have no problems with anything, but advice I got in training in the ministry, and I think as a man, and I've never had any situations that I just want to treat people as I treat them, and not be above reproach, not be alone.
Yeah, I agree.
With a different woman or something other than my wife.
Yeah, because like you said, the last thing you would want is like, you're preaching Sunday and then next week, you're in the news about something.
Oh, I can't tell you a story about that.
Go ahead.
I was in the news twice, but it was, the news once, and then when I became a Christian, I forgot this, if you want to just hear it.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I first became a Christian, I was coming out of Hollywood, and I still lived there for 4 years as a non-Christian, and I had some girlfriends and one-night stands and all that craziness. I was learning to preach in the church, and about 6 months on after I was learning to preach as an intern, a girl had come to church that someone invited, and the girl said, "That guy is an intern in your church. He slept with me last year in bed, drinking, partying."
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I went. And I went, "Oh, I'm ruined." And I said, "No, I'm not." And I went up and I just explained. I said, "I'm really sorry. I had no idea. I take responsibility, but I had sense, and I just shared what happened to me and how I studied."
Yeah.
But isn't that kind of weird? Because it was true.
Yeah.
And then the other time, I was renting out a house I owned, and I wasn't. It was when I went back in the ministry. So between, I had a company, right, and I was just getting out, but I rented the house to some people, and turned out they had some weird ideas, and they were doing like the chakra, like what do you call that?
All that magic.
But what it turned out is that people were going there for sexual healing, and I didn't know this. A lady I had a 4,000 square foot house. I was renting it for $5,000 a month.
Yeah,
and it turned out that I was going to speak in a church in Chicago. This is just barely when the new movement started. And a friend called me. He said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Why?" And he goes, "I was just sitting down having coffee and turning on the news with my kids, and the news came on and said, we think there's a church that's, or there's a house of prostitution." The news was out in front and saying that this is a house of prostitution.
What in the world?
I'm leading a church. I'm like, I wasn't living there. I rented that.
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh my gosh." And he goes, "This is the house I went to my first Bible talks, because when I lived there, I had Bible talks."
Yeah.
And I explained to him, and I had to go, I couldn't wait to get back home. I had to go back and say, "What's going on in here?"
Yeah.
And they had some funny ideas, but I didn't know if they had those ideas. But when you rent to people, you can't.
Yeah, you can't.
But oh my gosh, I had to say, "Dude, I can't consciously." They said, "We're not doing that. We just believe in." I said, "There's naked people out there by my pool." And I said, "What's going on out there?" "There's naked people laying around my pool with my little waterfalls out there."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, we have a free policy of wear clothes or not." And she had a beehive. She looked like she was someone's aunt in Nebraska, with like totally wholesome with a big beehive, like an old lady. I go, and I was like, "She has a desk." I said, what's going on? And I had to have her move out.
Yeah,
but that was intense. That was on the news. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was just like, what kind of craziness happens?
Do you have a favorite church that you've led or been a part of?
Oh, my gosh. Well, I feel like wherever I've been at, this sounds corny, but when you really love God, I've been to so many churches. I've led a lot of churches. But I loved Phoenix because that's where my parents were converted. And I also, it was an interesting thing coming back into the ministry and then finding the location they meet to this day. It's still there. So it's a lot of memories. Yeah. And it was just starting out again and learning and refining yourself. Because, we started the church in our living room when we first started again. And I didn't do it to go, I'm starting a church. I didn't even do it to go in the ministry. I'm just doing what's right.
Didn't you give the church the name or something? I've heard.
Well, when we were looking for names when we stepped out of the International Churches of Christ, we had to figure it out. And since it hadn't started yet, and in Phoenix, I said we'll call it Phoenix International Christian Church because there's a lot of Christian churches, but there was no one with international. And of course, we keep international because there's no home field with Christ. It's all nations. So I had to go down, put it in the paper, get an LLC, and start it that way. And that's how it really began.
So what's next?
Not that I had anything to do with it.
Yeah,
I just was there.
What's next for you, Chris? Like, what motivates you?
I don't even know.
We got a new year, 2024.
I don't have a care in the world. I can do anything I want. It's weird. I mean, seriously. Just I was paralyzed. You didn't cover that, but I'm walking in here, and I still have issues. But that's why I stepped back in the ministry. And I was able to have finances from the malpractice. So I don't know, bro. I'm trying to figure it out. It's really refining to just be serving and loving and doing what I'm doing anyway. Yeah. And I love OJ, the minister who leads our church now, and he gets me preach and do things like that. But I think I was weary, and I think I'm just coming back and converting myself. I think I reconvert myself every few years just in my own heart, make sure everything's doing it, and I'm still working on that, actually. Amen, not that I'm going anywhere.
Goes back to Phoenix on us,
Crazy.
King of the Hill Podcast, I appreciate all the listeners. If you want to be on the podcast, you can hit my email. We're going to have many more amazing episodes and more amazing speakers as well. I appreciate everybody for listening again. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Peace.